Josh Hartnett has more stage presence than this man here.
They think he seems like, quote, a real one.
I feel so empty.
Compound B
Feels good.
We're in over our heads.
Maybe it's time for me to save you.
Bees?
Welcome to Compound B, a show about the boys. I am Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, and my special skills include my Chicago accent. I'm talking about pickle, mustard on the hot dog only. You put ketchup, you're dead. You're dead. I'm here with Magnum Mills, and I want to talk about the Guardians of Godolkin, the season 1 finale of Gen V. Mills, did you make it through Thursday Night Football before you watched the finale? How did this work for you?
I am Magnum Mills, and I have to admit, at halftime, I'm like, all right, I'm going to walk the dog. I'm like, well, I'll just start watching the episode on my phone while I walk the dog, because it's just the previously on and everything takes like 10 minutes and everything anyway, right? And yada, yada, yada. I got back home, and I did manage to finally catch like the last 5 minutes of the game after I got done watching the episode. So it all worked out, though. No complaints. And hopefully you don't have any complaints about Compound B, a show about the boys. We are here breaking down all the episodes, and you can find us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on social media at Compound B Pod. Thank you for checking us out, and please do not forget the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. Helps other people find our show, find our channel, helps us out a ton. It's all we ask. If you had fun, please give us that thumb. Just one, then you're done.
He's a poet, and he didn't even know it. And just a heads up, there will be full-on spoilers from here on out. That includes all episodes of Gen V and the boys. We might even get into a little bit of the boys comic book run. We might even do a little bit of the anime joint. So this is your one and only warning. We're spoiling.
This is Guardians of Godolkin, Season 1, Episode 8, the 8th overall episode of Gen V, the Season 1 finale. Originally released November 3rd, 2023 on Prime Video. Directed by Sana Hamri. This is the first episode of The Boys or Gen V that she has directed. Written by Brad Eggleston. First written by credit for him on Gen V or The Boys. Special guest stars include Carl Urban as Billy Butcher. Anthony Starr as Homelander. Colby Manifi as Ashley Barrett. Guest starring Patrick Schwarzenegger as Golden Boy. Sean Patrick Thomas as Polarity. PJ Byrne as Adam Bork. Alexander Calvert as Rufus. Maya J. Bastidas as Justine. Daniel Byrne as Social Media Jeff. Robert Basoki as Liam. Matthew Edison as Cameron Coleman. And Sabrina Sardine as also Ashley. Now, a word from Gen V. If you or a human loved one have been injured or killed while working at Godolkin University, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Hundreds of human employees have been victimized by Godolkin students, but the law offices of Bremer and Bremer have won them millions in personal injury and wrongful death lawsuits. Contact us for a free consultation at 1-888-177-2774. Know your rights.
Always know your rights. And, look, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth will tell you, seek counsel. Now, we've been looking to college for our inspiration for shots, but Mills, I might legitimately need them before we talk about this episode. Crazy town here. What is up with the shots?
I think I might need them too, and we actually do shots as our way of determining kind of our overall thoughts on the episode, and we use the same process that you would usually use back in college when you were deciding whether or not to go to class. If you're not really feeling the episode like a bad class, you're skipping it. If you thought it was decent enough, you're hitting snooze. You'll get there eventually. And finally, if you love the episode, if you love the class, you are an on-time student. You're playing the job rule. You are always on time for class, sitting there before the professor starts, just waiting for the next one. Jamie G, you can pour first, and I'd recommend using your strong hand.
Oh, I'm heavy-handed here today, fella. Look, man, it's the season finale. I've got some things that I'm gonna talk about because we got to be real here. It wasn't perfect by any stretch, but for me, I'm gonna be an on-time student. I really liked it. I thought they did enough here to get me incredibly amped for not only season 2 of Gen V, but the boys and how this crossover is and what's happening in the world and all this crazy stuff regarding the boys universe. So for that, for some of the action, for some of the surprises, for some of the additional superpowers we see out of like Marie and things like that, I'm I got to give this thing an on-time student. I really liked it.
Yeah, play the Ja Rule and the Ashante. I'm on time with you there, whether or not we're in the same dorm or whatever. It was always nice when we had someone to walk to class with. I think my main problems with the episode are more about what wasn't in it than what was. Almost everything in the episode I enjoyed, even if I had a couple quibbles with some of the logistics. I think most importantly, it surprised me in parts, and it got me very excited for both the upcoming season of The Boys and for season 2 of Gen V. I think it ticked all the boxes. It did what it needed to do. So I'm on time for it. I'm there for it. I'm excited about the next one. But you are right. It was not perfect. And I still think we're waiting for that kind of like the top tier episode, right? Like every show, when they get there and they have that episode. I don't know that we've gotten there yet in season 1. Doesn't mean that they won't ever get there. It takes a lot of shows. They don't hit that episode until season 2 or 3. I think they've done enough here to justify more shows. It just, you were maybe hoping for that like finale that pushed it to the next level a little bit. I don't think they quite got to that height.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, we did think about leading off by discussing the end of the episode, but I think we're going to get hung up on that for a while. So instead, let's just start with how we get there. The episode opened right where the last one ended, with Indira still bleeding out on her living room floor. Mills, did you like the choice to open up the finale this way, just picking it up right, kind of right split second from where the penultimate episode ended?
I liked it because it was basically a choice to give us a different POV. We opened with Marie's POV, and that's what made it work, because you open by hearing everyone else's thoughts, and they're almost unanimous in like, what did she do? This is crazy. She just killed her. Oh my God. Except for Sam. You just hear his like random thoughts in there. She tortured us. So it's a nice little subtle way of maybe giving a little bit more reasoning as to why she felt confident that Sam would side with her. Because you see that bit, like right when Jordan comes up to her, you get the idea that if Kate can't touch them, she doesn't really have a physical power, right? She can be pretty easily overwhelmed. And that's why she tells Jordan, like, yeah, you could stop me, but how about him? And that's when Sam steps up. So I think that was a cool way of giving us an insight both into how her powers work now with being off the pills, and as to why maybe she felt a little bit confident in doing what she did, and even a little context maybe why Sam did what he did. So of all the ways they could have started it, I think this, looking back, I don't know how you would have done it differently. So I don't have any problems with this at all. How about you?
I agree. I think that it was the right call here. That was such a massive moment. I think you kind of needed to see, well, what do they do then, right? What do they do next? Because that's kind of where, I was left at the end of last episode, was how the hell are they going to get out? Like, what's going to happen now? So I was pretty happy about that. Pretty happy about that. Let's talk about Sama, or should I say the couple formerly known as Sama. Mills, I shed a tear as this relationship went from just the strongest as it could ever be to seems to be failing. We'll start with Emma here. Once again, she doesn't get much to do in this episode, which is a real tragedy if you ask me. What did you think about the big scene between her and Sam on stage in Adam Bork's class, where Sam basically is just mean to her, dude, and he didn't have to be. It was shitty.
This was probably the biggest turn in the episode from an emotional or character-based standpoint that was toughest to understand. Like, what changed? What is it that pushed Sam over that edge? And we'll talk about him in a minute. I think you see some of that illustrated by his visions of Luke. Like, he knows deep down he's not doing the right thing. I guess they're trying to just go with he's just that angry. Now he has a face to the people who tortured him for all those years. And I do have to admit, if I was kept in a hidden medical facility and experimented on and tortured for years, I would be kind of mad if everyone just kept telling me I need to chill out or whatever. I think there is some truth to that, but he goes to many deep personal levels in his attacks on Emma. And I think that's the part that really kind of hit the hardest, right? And really, like, this wasn't just like your typical kind of, I shouldn't say lover's quarrel or spat or whatever, but it's like Sam went for like the words you would say when you don't want to ever talk to someone ever again, not just break up. You know what I mean? He tried to It was like he was deliberately going for one of the most hurtful things I can say. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised he even had that good of insight into Emma's character after only kind of, I'm sure they obviously had conversations we didn't know about when he told her about the puppet stuff or whatever. But the fact that he goes right to like, you would do anything for everyone to like you, that's not a hero. that's basically hitting back at all of her biggest insecurities and worries. And, it was just absolutely devastating, I think, for the most part.
And this is where I'm just a little bit frustrated with the show, because they had done everything to purposefully show you that those two were locked in. And Emma, not that she had control over Sam, but he listened. She could get through to him. He respected, loved her, and would do anything to not hurt her. And then all of a sudden he just turns cold and just hurts her. I don't know, man. It was a stretch for me. They didn't do enough to kind of get me there to believe that.
It just made you just sad, right? I think we even said that, like,
yeah,
can't they just be together and be happy? Too. But this is what shows do, right? You have to kind of like give people what they want and then tear them apart so you can bring them back together later. That's fine. It felt like it didn't track with, just as much as it seemed a little weird that they, got so close so fast. I mean, I guess maybe that is college and young love or whatever, but it just seemed in this circumstance, like the whole idea that, Emma's like, Sam's mad because Emma showed up and told him, like, don't kill people. And Emma's like, dude, that's kind of normal. Like, that's not weird.
Yeah. Well, and I get that he's like, this is my normal, but honestly, it hasn't been the last 5 episodes, right? It's like, he hasn't wanted to. He's been the whole puppet thing to kind of block it. He's shown this innocence where he doesn't want to be like that. That's just what he knows. So to me, it didn't work. Outside of that, we did get something really cool. And it was the start of not necessarily a full-blown theme, but definitely the start of something here in terms of these young kids realizing more about their superpowers. And that was Emma shrinking down at the end of this scene with her and Sam without any purging. I thought this was really cool. I really enjoyed her just kind of like with these huge shoes and this draping gown that was her clothing, and just the sheer shock on her. And it just goes to show you that they are really missing by not using her more. She's a phenomenal actress, a great character. They got to figure out ways to incorporate her more in season 2.
Yeah, she absolutely crushed the scene with Sam. And then, like you said, the scene where we see her small. And, I read a couple interviews with the showrunners. Again, we said spoiling everything here. And they weren't answering things exactly, but the impression they gave is that, maybe her power is more, connected to the way purging made her feel than the actual act of purging. You know what I mean? It's about that emotional state. And here it seems, pretty obvious, right? Sam makes her feel small and tiny. So she shrinks to small and tiny. It makes enough sense. I think that'll be something, fun to explore in season 2. But I mean, that's basically what she gets. Like, this is the episode. I mean, yeah, for her. Oh, she gets the one line right at the very beginning when they're talking about Indira, and she says,
"The situation is bleeding all over the fucking rug."
A lot of Jersey Shore flashbacks on that one, so that was fun for me. And just Adam Bork, just the beginning of him just absolutely killing this episode, like low-key MVP. When he calls Sam out.
Okay, remember when I talked about stage presence, everybody? That is not it. Josh Hartnett has more stage presence than this man here. And I could say that because we're close personally.
That was a great one. And then even when the dude's doing his scene and just shout out the dialogue from Dawn of the Seven, and everyone starts to clap, and he just looks back and he's like, no, only I get to clap.
I loved it. And just the way that he's, that is how you deliver a compliment without being a fanboy. Very cool. I'm glad he came back around again. I think I don't know if we asked each other that earlier in the season on an episode of Compound B, if we thought we'd see him again or not, but glad we did. Mills, on the other side of the proverbial divorce courtroom here, we have Sam. Twice in this episode, he has a vision of Luke, who tries to talk him out of following Kate and hurting humans. Did you like how they basically use Luke essentially as Sam's conscience?
Yes. I mean, it kind of made sense in that as it was happening then, especially in the second time it happens where Kate's also there, I started just thinking of like the Eminem joint, Guilty Conscience. And I just have like, Luke's on one shoulder, he's the good side, and then like Kate's the bad conscience or whatever. That, the angel and the devil, or I had that whole thing just in my head. And honestly, I thought Patrick Schwarzenegger really killed here. Like, he seemed, pretty vulnerable. And it is interesting when you get into this, because he even admits, like, I am you, right? Like, I am just a product of your imagination, of your brain telling you, you're doing the wrong thing and you're doing it anyway. And I guess Sam kind of makes that point with his one line, like when Luke says, "I love you," and Sam's like, "But you said you were me, and trust me, I hate myself." If we're looking for character motivation, that's about as on the nose as you can be. Like, he just hates himself, and Luke kind of piles on that, right? He says that he hurt one person one time and he killed himself over it, and he's talking about hurting Sam, right? I mean, this is some, a really just messed up relationship between these two brothers.
It is, but they one thing I like about this is they do just enough to make you think there's some redeemable hope here with Sam, and they've done it throughout the season, but they do enough here, even though he chooses not to listen to Luke. They still do enough to say, okay, well, his subconscious is trying to tell him the right thing. I think, and that's why it was so hard to buy this just blind faith following Kate. I just they really needed to give him more in the penultimate episode when Kate has Indira kill herself. They needed to give him more there, other than she sucked.
He partied a little, basically. That was the setup, as he experienced
Yeah.
life with other soups without being in the woods, and that seemed to be basically that. Yeah, and the Kate thing, and basically the impetus, right? But I guess he did know Shetty. He had seen her. That was the first face he could be like, she did this to me.
And I don't know if the whole rally was a setup for this, for him being this, because they've subtly tried, well, not so subtly, but planted kind of these sectors and unrest with civilization between soups and humans, and he's clearly on side soup. We're better. We should kill everyone. But they didn't see this with Kate. There was no indication that Kate was going to go this route. And they really didn't do a good enough job setting it up with Sam, in my opinion. Again, love the show, like the episode a lot. I just have to kind of call it out as I see it here. I think that was a little bit of a miss for him.
Yeah, and really, he did not. He got the scene at the beginning, the scene with Emma, and then he gets the scene where they go into the woods with Kate. And I thought that was a cool one, because I think that was the first time when he gets down there and the guard kind of recognizes Kate, and then Sam just punches through his little face mask or whatever. I mean, just basically just breaks his skull and then rips a piece of his brain out. I think that's the first time we've actually seen Sam use his powers on a person without it being in puppet mode or what have you. So that was a nice little touch there. And then there was just a little bit of humor in that scene that I did enjoy. But Sam had the good line when they saw the dude who actually got poisoned or killed by the virus or whatever. So not only do they know that Sam points him out, he's like, "Oh,
was Andy. He was hilarious, and then really sad. He was bipolar."
I don't know why. I'm not trying to laugh at bipolar people, but just the way he delivered that so dry, like Leslie Nielsen style, that cracked me up. And then the one dude, when he's the dude who eventually burns the chick's face off. We'll get to that in a minute. When they freak him, Kate's like, "When's the last time you saw sunlight?" And he's like, "Is Gangnam Style still a thing?"
Oppan Gangnam Style.
That's 2012. So theoretically, if he's not lying, dude's been down there for a decade. Think about that. A decade of being experimented on, in worse than jail for something like you didn't do or have any control over. That's just, it does set up why these soups are so pissed off, right? I
totally agree with that.
Context into why they come out ready to kill everybody.
Totally agree with that. I mean, not only was he jailed and held against his will, but he was tortured and experimented on. So with cruelty. So I mean,
that's about as bad as it gets. That's about as bad as you can do to another human. Who knows? It might even gone further than that. Who knows? It's it's about as bad as it gets, really.
I totally agree with that, but you would just thought that anger and that hatred towards humans maybe would have been there before this episode. That's my only kind of complaint there. And same thing with Kate as well. You would think that it would have been there a little bit earlier, but
yeah, I mean, I guess they tried to show, how it wouldn't be or how they've been suppressed or whatever. And I mean, you even see that here. It's too much for him. To stop seeing Luke, he has Kate help him by making him feel nothing. And he's like, "I feel so empty. It feels good." Because you get the idea that, think about it, the visions he has with the puppets and the things we were seeing on TV, the Stardust and everything. You get the idea he can't ever have a quiet moment, right? He just can't read a book and turn it off or whatever. His head is just always going, and those kind of people, and it's rough. But I don't think that they really just did enough with him here. I mean, even like when he fights Andre, that's a pretty weak fight scene, really. And honestly, based on what we know about Sam, like he should just toast Andre, right? I mean, without unless Andre's using the metal stuff, he hasn't been shown to be like, I think they said he benches 350 or something on his little card. I mean, that's good. He's obviously strong for a dude his size, but with what we've seen Sam do, you know, it makes me wonder kind of if on some level maybe Sam was holding back a little bit during that fight or something.
Yeah, I mean, one punch from Sam should send him flying into the sky. Like they just, you know, they make him out to be
punch him in half, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can punch. We've seen him punch through a.
Yeah, you punch right through that dude with like a bulletproof, or you're assuming like ballistic face mask on, right through that, and the dude's skull, no problem. You know, he hits Andre with a couple good ones, but it feels like something's a little off there. That he's pulling his punches, or again, they've been a little bit unclear about how powerful supes are in general, but
right.
You know, how strong do you just get like generic super strength with B or whatever, you know, that kind of
thing. Well, and then he's feeling nothing, but did he feel the electric shocks? Right? Because it eventually just stopped and it put him out. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing, I think they're
right. Probably feel nothing emotionally, but you're right. Technically, like if you felt nothing, if your nerves were numb, you couldn't walk or talk. So yeah, that's one of those things when you get into the nitty-gritty of how do these powers work.
Well, let's move on to Andre and his pops. Mills, it appears we were both absolutely dead wrong last week. Nobody caused polarity seizures. He has brain damage. And now I have Eminem brain damage stuck in my head. But he has brain damage from using his own powers. And the same thing could be happening to Andre here. We were waiting to see what was going to happen with Andre. This wasn't what we were expecting. But I like it. I like that they gave Andre something in his mind to say, oh, wow, there might be recourse and there might be problems down the road from utilizing some of these superpowers. And I could end up having these seizures and basically eliminating brain matter like my father. I really like this angle that they took here.
It was certainly a surprise. You knew they had to be setting Andre up for something. I couldn't really figure out what it was. I really thought polarity was going to have a little bit bigger role in the season. You know, he shows up for a few scenes here or there, but not in a single action scene. You know, I don't think we ever see him use his powers. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not really the way I saw it going down. I mean, Andre's got to be in a weird place, right? Because then his dad's basically like, now you have to be polarity and you need to do whatever Vought tells you. And I knew about all the stuff, you can hate me or whatever, but you need to just be a yes man or whatever. You know, I don't think that's what Andre wanted to hear. And I'm assuming when he goes back to Vought, like that's again where we don't get a scene. Like I get why they cut away from there, but then the next thing you know, Andre just shows up when the helicopter comes. You know, that's again like really kind of convenient timing there. Nothing wrong with it. I really like the scene with him and his pops. I think it really rang true. You could totally get with someone in the superhero industry, like he was in with Vought. That was a big time. He could support his family that way. And so he just did what Vought asked. You know, no questions asked to a certain extent. And, you know, how many people do that at their jobs? You just, you know, you got to support the family. You got to pay the bills. You got to do what you got to do.
Of course.
There is, you know, be a little bit of issue on, you know, what does this do for Andre going forward? The one thing I don't like is one of the interviews I read with the showrunners. They're kind of like, well, look at it this way. Polarity's just getting symptoms now, and he's been doing this for decades. The implication is basically, you know, Andre could theoretically keep using these for the rest of the show and it would be fine. So I don't think it's something they'll throw away. But, you know, and hopefully it's not going to be one of those things where every time he uses his powers, you know, you get some weird, like, twitching or whatever, you know, wouldn't seem to make sense either, considering, you know, his pop seems to be at least 25, 30 years older and is just now really experiencing real symptoms. So, you know, maybe it would have been even a little bit better if we'd like somehow seen his pops having the symptoms subtly before, or his pops admitting it been going on for a while, that kind of thing. You know, it seemed like the first time it ever happened, kind of.
Yeah, but the one it did. But the one thing I will say is they kind of did a good enough job for me, at least, that it seems like this entire season, Andre's been trying to find any reason he can to not be a superhero. And now you've got something that's going to be in his mind forever, you know, literally and figuratively here, with when he uses his superpowers, he's slowly killing himself. And, you know, could they take it into other superpowers? You know, I mean, is somebody like Homelander with his superpower, is that causing damage every time he does that. He creates nerve damage in his brain or something. I mean, who knows? So I think it opens up another can that they could potentially release or not. But I think for Andre's character specifically, he's never, since the season started, he hasn't been committed to the craft of being a superhero. So I think this is just another thing that kind of maybe gives him pause.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like his goal at God U was to hang out with his friends, you know, and not piss his dad off, you know, just basically kind of get by a little bit, just coast more or less. You know,
he wanted to party, have fun, enjoy women, and that's it. Not be a superhero. You know, he never wanted to be number one.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of actually kind of fun stuff with Andre. I guess I do just want to point out that the hospital he's in there in Vought Tower, that's the same place we saw in The Boys where Andre got his heart transplant. We saw that, or excuse me, where A-Train got his heart transplant at the end of season 3 when he was in there, when he got Blue Hawk or Blue Falcon, I forget, I think it's Blue Hawk, got his heart. And Ashley's like, oh yeah, you're gonna do all this stuff. You know, Jamie G, you have your Chicago accent. When they're kind of going through Andre's dossier at the trustees meeting, they list his additional skills as British accent, which is just a fun note because the actor is from the UK, I believe. So his natural accent is a British accent. And there is a small note there. It does say like Andre's mom, she runs the Polarity brand. So apparently she's in the picture still. We've heard a lot about his dad, haven't seen his mom or really even heard a reference that I know of. And, you know, this one makes me feel bad. Ashley refers to his GPA of a 3.3 as being terrible. I don't think it's that bad, dude.
I mean, I would have been happy with 3.3. Just kidding. You know, I passed the bar. I am Jamie G. Esquire the fifth. It's not terrible, Magnum Mills, but it's not a 4.0. Anything else on Andre here? I thought, again, another really good bit of kind of hand acting with the.
Yeah, I mean, the chopper scene was cool, right? It was just, again, he had to arrive in the absolute nick of time. That was a touch too convenient. They've been a little bit loose with that kind of thing, but it was really cool to see him show up there. You know, and I guess, like, you know, he teams up with Marie for a second there, and then basically, you know, they're like, oh yeah, Guardians of Godolkin, right? And then he goes off and he has basically the little confrontation with Kate where they do, it's almost like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, right? Like she's asking him to come to the dark side, and he's like, no, you don't have to do that. And then she offers him her hand, and you see that it doesn't have the glove on, and he doesn't do it. What do you think would have happened if he would have reached out and took her hand? Would she have come with him, or would she have pushed him?
I think she would have pushed him 100%. Dude, there was nothing changing what she was doing, and she was going to convince anybody and everybody to do this, and she wasn't going to let anybody stand in her way, including him. And I absolutely think she was.
Yeah, at the bare minimum, she'd be like, "You love me." Like she would at least do that, even if she didn't tell him what to do. She would at least be like, "You will no longer question me, or you will love me, or something."
I think that, you know, we saw a little bit of kind of learned behavior with her relationship with Indiri in terms of learning the art of manipulation. I think we saw that a little bit with Sam, and I think we were going to see it a little bit with Andre there as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. And one last little bit of humor that we got from the Andre and Polarity thing, when Polarity asked Andre to get his phone and look up Heather, and Andre's like, Heather PR or Heather Wardrobe? Like he's got his own Ashleys, right? Like, you know, we have Ashleys, Polarity has Heather's. Heather Wardrobe and Heather PR. I'd like to meet him someday.
I would too. Gotta love it. Absolutely love Ashley in this. We mentioned Emma not getting enough screen time in the finale, but how about Jordan? They help save Ashley and the trustees, get into a brief scuttle with some soups, but that's basically it. I mean, a little bit disappointing here. I guess we did see kind of Jordan and Marie kind of team up for a split second there at the end, but not enough with Jordan, was it? It wasn't for me.
Not at all. I mean, again, shout out when they go and all the trustees are running out of the building and Jordan grabs him and we have an almost like Predator moment, like get to the chopper, and Adam Bork's like, what do you mean? And she thinks it's closed, and you know, just again another great Adam Bork moment here. But that's basically it. You know, everything else is basically in service of Marie. It's an excuse for her to stop the conversation with Kate, and they don't even really get like a fight scene like that. You know, I would have kind of liked more. I would say, obviously, of all the members of the quote unquote gang, Jordan definitely gets the shortest stick here in the finale. They get almost nothing to do.
Yeah. And I did like you know, the little bit you get, it's kind of like Jordan wants to be, you know, wants to do the right thing here, just like Marie kind of as well. So I did enjoy that, but just not nearly enough. I did like the just natural kind of heroics there to kind of direct them to the plane or I'm sorry, get to the chopper, got him to the chopper and kind of, you know, work to save them. Just not enough though.
That's it. That's the problem. That's it. Like that's you again. Like you thought they were building to something maybe with that storyline, and they're not even the one who goes to Indira's office, you know, to find the panic button or whatever. It seemed a little odd. You just hope that it's in. You know, I was gonna say, you know, hope that somehow lays down the future that she impressed or that they impressed OG Ashley, and now that leads to something. But based on the ending of this episode, I don't know that helped any.
Yeah, I don't. One person who did not lack for screen time in this episode is our girl, OG Ashley. She's even got also Ashley with her. You got to love also Ashley. Ashley has the meeting from hell with the Godolkin trustees. It starts badly and gets worse quickly. Where do you want to start here, Mills? A lot to unpack with OG Ashley and also Ashley.
I am impressed that also Ashley is back. I swear to God she quit at the end of season 3, but maybe OG Ashley made her an offer we can't refuse. I would love if they did like little webisodes or shorts or something that explains why also Ashley is back. I would love that. I mean, just everything about Ashley here is pretty great. The whole idea she's there. You know what she's missing to be there, JBG? A farm to table fuckfest. That's what she's missing.
Yes, she is.
To be at that board meeting right then. Just great stuff there. Especially love when Adam Bork again MVPing it comes up banging on the door, like yelling at her to let him in, or he's going to tell everybody what they did in the bathroom at a charity event. That's just
love the crossover. Again, a lot of great stuff from the boys bleeding in. Every episode's been kind of ramping up more and more. That was a hilarious part because I think that was an opener, wasn't it, for a boys episode maybe last season?
That's not even that was at the premiere. That was definitely at the premiere of Dawn of the Seven. This means this has happened multiple times in multiple bathrooms. So it's not a wonder. Like this is that wasn't a one-time affair. This is an ongoing affair. I would love to
good for him.
Give me a little behind the scenes or whatever. That seems like that's fun. And I love the running bit that every time something wrong kept happening, Ashley kept asking where Shetty was.
Yes.
Like, it was
every
basically
time.
her version of Clerks. Like, I'm not even supposed to be here today. It was her like, where the fuck is Shetty? Like, those were basically, you can interchange those two things, basically.
Oh, dude, 100%. And they kept going to it, and then, you know, cutting away from it after she would say it. Great little bit there. I love the fact that things are so terrible right now. This is before they even know about the woods being, the patients in the woods being released and, you know, Shetty's daddy and all that. Their idea was they're just going to promote somebody straight from the 7 as a major distraction. Do you think that would work? And then it got me thinking in real life, would something like, are people that stupid to just be like, yeah, I guess now I can focus on that and forget about all this stuff. And I kept talking myself into, I think we might be.
Yeah, I mean, look at it this way. They start out with, all right, things are so bad at Godolkin U. We're just going to promote somebody for the first time ever from student to the 7. You know, that's basically the equivalent, I would say, going from like getting promoted from your high school varsity football team to the NFL and starting at quarterback. Maybe you could do it for a running back or a kicker or something, but no, for a big boy position or even like defensive end or something where it would just be wild.
And without consulting any of the other members of the 7, did you buy it that by the time we got to the end of this episode, one of our gang, so to speak, the Gen V gang, was going to get elected to the 7, or were you like, no way that's happening?
It's funny because when they first started out, they're spending so much time on Andre, right? That's where you get the scene with all of his various statistics and everything like that. And I was assuming they were going to do that for everybody. But then as soon as stuff started going bad, it devolved into, all right, we're just going to call everybody. We are going to war dial them. We're just going to mass dial them all. And whoever can kill the people trying to kill us first gets to be in the 7. You wonder if they really have that kind of power to uphold that deal if it happened. But obviously we saw Ashley's call to Marie, which I thought was pretty cool. Ashley even went to talk to her about like, oh, not only the 7, we'll get you a meeting with your sister. It makes me wonder, did Ashley know that, or was that written on the card she was reading? It could go either way, but considering that Marie was ranked number 1, you would imagine that, she would have been pretty close to the top of the list of people to call or whatever. I guess maybe they went with Andre because he had the existing Polarity brand and whatnot. So I really did like that whole conversation with Ashley and Marie. I thought that bit was good. And I just love how Ashley gets all confident one minute, like when the sonic whistle thing started working, she's like, oh, see, it's all under control. What are you worrying about? And then when that stops working, she's just like, oh shit, call Homelander.
Get the chopper here immediately and call Homelander. Yeah. I mean, she basically had plan A, B, and C, and we got to see really quickly there. Dude, I know that you were so sad to see social media Jeff suicide here, killed by Kate. But getting it on live stream, pretty wild scene there.
Well, and that happened right outside of where they were, right?
Yeah.
Like it happened, they watch it on live stream and they look out the window and just see the headless corpse. That's when it becomes real, right? Like that's that moment from Bad Boys where Martin Lawrence turns around, he's like, yo, shit just got real. Maybe that was Bad Boys too. It was probably both, but the Michael Bay, you do the full 360, you take off the sunglasses.
Who was he working for here? Because they made he made a comment.
Oh, I'm pretty sure actually they set it up that he was on the phone with also Ashley. Like when he first called in after the whatnot, like when he's like, oh, we got a problem. Like I'm pretty sure you actually see a little bit of that other side of the conversation with also Ashley. So I'm assuming he was calling Ashley, but also Ashley is working the phone for her. That's the way I took it.
Yeah. Also, Ashley is just a vessel for OG Ashley. Well, RIP social media, Jeff. You were fun while you lasted. We appreciate the laughs, especially early.
Oh, and just shout out that he had his own the Jeffsters. Like that's what he called his little online army. And I do not know that theoretically might be a shout out to the show Chucked. Like they had a little band on there that was called Jeffster. I don't know if that's unintentional or not or whatever. I'm sure like Jeffster has been used, a fair amount of times over history, but just a fun little bit. I liked how he just changed his stance up, right? Like when he got called out and he had to figure out who he was, his just whole body posture changed. He became way more confident and, because he was all awkward and everything when he talked with Marie before. So I thought that was a nice job acting right there by social media Jeff, who we will not see anymore.
We will not. Rest in peace, social media Jeff. That brings us back to Kate and Marie, who play the largest roles in the climax of the finale here. Let's start with when Kate has Maverick attack Marie. Mills, were you surprised to find out that Maverick was Translucent's kid? That was a little bit of they just kind of slipped it in. I mean, I guess we referenced it earlier in the season, like, in comparing them, but a little surprised that it was his kid.
Why not? I even remember Translucent saying he had a kid when he figured out that they had a bomb up his ass and Huey was going to maybe blow him up. He's like, oh, come on, man, I got a kid. So it tracks and everything. I kind of like Maverick overall. Like I have questions about, is that his actual name, Maverick? Is he named after Tom Cruise? Is there a whole Top Gun Translucent thing going on? I like all that. And I just like the idea that you figure out that he is walking around by choice at all times, naked, just hanging dong, wearing glasses and a hat. Because you see him when he gets shocked and he's unconscious, then he becomes visible. That's how Translucent was. He could come and go and make himself invisible or visible, but not his clothing. So it's just interesting that he has chosen to just do the hat. He can wear pants and a shirt and everything, but he chooses not to. He's just like, just cap and glasses. It's all good.
The hat and glasses. I gotta say, I mean, this was really cool. It's becoming a runner how they basically evolve Marie's superhero powers every episode. This was one of the coolest, man, when she kind of slows down and focuses and sees his blood flow. Basically, it starts with his heart and then kind of his whole blood flow throughout his body. I thought this was an awesome, dude. This was the first of like 3 or 4 incredible things she does in this episode.
Yeah, and I mean that's what they've been building to the whole time. And I do just want to say, shout out Maverick. Like we saw him with the not horse, but whatever, like some llama, was it? I forget what
the llama.
He had the whole thing going on, and you even get a gag where Ashley, when they're talking about Maverick, and she's like, "Oh, is he like perverted as his father?" Basically, And you even see here when he goes up to Marie before she pushes him to, or when she goes up to Kate before she pushes him to fight Marie, and he tries to tell her, hey, like, Vought just called me and told me I need to kill you. So that implies that he's at least decent enough that he didn't just go to kill Kate. Like, he went and found her, but he was going to tell her about it, not try to kill her. So that at least implies that he's maybe a little bit better than translucent.
Right.
But yeah, definitely a cool, like, you've seen a lot of
Give him time.
takes on the
He's
invisible
gotta...
scene, and that was a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about it with Marie. We talked about the invisible thing. Let's just do the blood bullets. When she started, because I first thought when she was going to try to find him, deep down, I thought it was going to be the Newman thing, how it ended up being. But I thought for a second she was just going to rain blood. So you'd see him, like, I think they did that in one of the Invisible Man movies, or Hollow Man maybe, or something. Just like cover him and whatnot, and you'll be able to see him. But then when she starts pulling up the blood, like, oh, where's this going? And then she basically makes blood bullets, I guess you'd say.
Daggers, blood knife, blood weapon.
Yeah, blood knives, I guess. I mean, they flew like bullets, but
they did.
I guess you could
this
coagulate
was really
the
cool.
blood, right? And make them hard. I mean, I suppose there's a way that would track.
She was full-blown coagula here. Dude, this was
a lot of blood to work
cool
with, too. She didn't have to use her own. Like, she had plenty of
blood
available blood.
And it just opens the realm of all that she is possible for with blood powers. Because remember, early on, we're like, man, I don't know if blood ropes are really going to be enough for her to be like,
they're really
legit.
not.
Well, they're not at all, and that's probably the weakest thing she does right now that she's figured out how to do this. I thought that was really cool. I was a fan of these blood bullets, or whatever you want to call it. Blood bullets sounds like Wu-Tang's next album, dude. Like, that would be a great album name for the
hence
Wu.
that sounds like some, it's on the criminology track or something like that. And it's so good that Adam Bork is putting it in his next movie. That was great when it happens and they're all terrified. And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to die, but I'm putting that in my next movie. Again, just Creeper episode MVP, if we just gave it out that way. Just low-key, Adam Bork kind of steals every scene that he's in. And Jamie G, I have to give it up to you. We got it here. Marie basically explodes a soup's heart, or implodes it, or floods it, or prevents blood from going in it. Or there's a lot of ways, but you don't have to do much to the human heart to make it not work anymore. And she does something and it stops working, as opposed to head popping. So you've been waiting for that one basically since episode 1. So did you take pleasure in the death of this soup?
I did. I feel bad for the soup, RIP soup, but I was glad to see my premonition come to reality here with her ability to basically blow up a heart internally. It wasn't the coolest scene in the world, because it's just like somebody having a heart attack, which sucks to look at, but it was cool to see that superpower kind of come to life here.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna save the end until the end. So let's move over to Kate here. I think we've kind of touched on most of her stuff with as far as Andre and Sam and Marie. I did like the little touch that when she goes down to the woods, she was able to go down there and the guard greeted her. That gives you an idea, like, she was going down there on the regular. You know what I mean? She was recognized, so it wasn't like a one-time thing that she went down there even 2 or 3 times. She was probably going down there, on a weekly or monthly basis at least, to help them. It makes it just, I think, at least implied, or at least implicit, that she was more involved in some of the, the workings at the woods than we would have thought initially. You know what I mean? You first wonder, like, how much did she know? And I think it turns out she knew a lot more than she ever really kind of let on, even when she, quote unquote, kind of confessed to the gang.
Yeah. Well, because he even said, like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. Like that, you get the feeling like her first year or two, she was down there a lot.
Yeah, probably every time something went wrong with Luke, right? Every time he had a dream that he remembered something or whatever, and we saw her have that conversation. Like, he keeps remembering more, and they have to keep doing it more and more. So it just shows you kind of how deep she was into it. And she was pretty brutal here. Again, we talked about making social media Jeff blow up his own head on a live stream. But dude, how about that bit where Kate makes a guard eat his own hands? And shout out the sound design on that one, or if it was straight Foley or digital or where you got that, but that was...
Eat your own fucking hands, you monster.
Right. There was some crunch in there, and it wasn't...
If you're not watching on YouTube, you missed the, like, oh my God, my fingers are getting eaten face I just tried to make. And I've never really had that happen except for a puppy, and it's not usually as dangerous there, but... that was Bruce, man. You just get the idea that Kate, like, she can be Kate the Cruel pretty easily.
She can. I like Mills. I love it. Kate the Cruel. She really is. She has an evil streak inside of her, and we'll save it for I know we got predictions coming up, but dude, I'm sensing some hardcore BE with her and Homelander. Let's put it that way.
Well, I mean, we're just about there because we haven't said it's in one part when Marie kind of saves Jordan in the chopper, and they start doing the slow walk, and they're playing the uplifting music, and then you see Kate just coming in like a horror movie, right? You think it's over, the day is won, and she just starts coming in, and then Marie just pops her arm. Did that shock you in that moment, or did you think that Kate was going to get there and make Jordan and Marie fight?
Well, I thought she was. I didn't again. This is the third or fourth new power we see out of Marie this episode. I didn't know she had the ability to do that.
Yeah, this is the
I
Rufus
still don't
power.
know how she did.
She did this already. She blew his dick off. Same power. If you blow it,
well, that had blood flow going to it. I guess
your body has blood flow going to it at all times.
But that was a more like thought out. She had to look at it, and it swelled slowly and then blew up. This was just a quick.
I think it was just implication. It was just Jordan was in danger. It just triggered the reflex. That's where I went with it. She was that worried that she didn't think. She just acted.
So in theory, she can blow up any part. She could just take somebody's leg off. She could take.
Yes, that's the guy. I thought you were the one who basically said that to begin with. Like, just blow up the heart or whatever. It's
insane.
She just finally, to her credit, maybe she didn't want to go there. Like, she was trying not to be that dark. She never really sat down and be like, can I explode someone's heart? That's maybe not necessarily a bad thing that it didn't occur to her right from Jump Street.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. She wants to be a good person here. I thought it was cool the way they did it. And I like that Kate finally, because Kate kind of emerged as the big bad here this episode. It was weird. So it was nice to kind of see her get shot down a little bit, at least for a moment, because as we all know, it was a temporary victory for Marie and company.
Yeah, good old Kate Blood Eyes.
Good old Kate Blood Eyes here, man. Somebody's got to get her some clear eyes for real. This is a
Blood Eyes. Somebody called her, I think, Blood Eyed Billie Eilish, and I laughed a little bit at that.
That's a funny one. Can Clear Eyes or Visine come in here? I mean, there's got to be. I can't believe they're not.
There's a difference between bloodshot eyes and bloody eyes, I feel.
Yeah, well, true, but it's got to work. They got to have something out there. And Mills, and then almost right on cue, magically, wasn't magic, but Homelander appears out of the sky. He basically yells at Marie here. Then he lasers her right directly in the chest, we believe, and it cuts to black. We heard Ashley name drop him earlier in this episode. Was there any surprise to you that Homelander actually showed up and had a little bit of a speaking role here?
Not necessarily. I do have to say that I really thought that they were going to go out of their way to try to make this episode stand on its own and not feed into the boys as much, and then maybe go the Marvel route and do a mid-credits or a post-credit scene or something like that, which they obviously did do as well. I don't really have a problem with it. I thought the visual was great because at the end of the first episode, we look up into that same sky and see Luke kill himself. Here, Homelander comes down and then lands next to the statue of himself, and even just he gives it that quick look. Anthony Starr he's right up there in the the Monroe Fuchs of the world. Stephen Roots, when it comes to face acting, he is definitely in the conversation, and he does some really good stuff here. I thought generally he was great. And, I just had to wonder, I'm like, man, how powerful is Marie if he really lasered her and she's just okay?
Well, we've seen him. He basically cuts people in half, whether they're even Supes are scared of him. The fact
Stormfront's the only one I know he definitely lasered, and she was like, all right, but she was supposed to be, again, one of the more powerful Supes. So
yeah, I mean, this blows me away that she could take it and is virtually fine. I guess my thoughts here is it was super cool to see Homelander. I get your point of, the show could and should maybe look at trying to stand on its own, but I like the bleeding of the universe. It makes it that much bigger. It expands it. And I think the universe is cool enough to where, and fun and interesting enough to where they can do it without it getting, stale or overkill, at least in my opinion. I will say that one thing that happened here is, and obviously we kind of see it, but they're really leaning into this kind of like Supes versus humans thing. And we saw it throughout this season, but this end here with Homelander and how they kind of frame the Gen V gang and prop up Sam and Kate really just speaks to where they're going with this thing, right? In terms of the great divide between supes and humans.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems that Homelander is basically leaning into the lessons he took from Stormfront, from where we saw him at the end of season 3, that it's going to be him versus the world. It seems like he is probably calling the shots for Vought more or less at this point. So this was his choice to do it this way, because otherwise, let's be honest here. I know it works from a PR standpoint, but how loyal are Kate and Sam going to be to Vought? You know what I mean? Like, I don't, they maybe, I mean, I guess, it makes you think about how ideological they are, where their arguments are actually coming from, but it works thematically. I mean, you start out with the Guardians of Godolkin, and then you have the new Guardians of Godolkin. And a shout out the actor who plays Cameron Coleman. Like, that dude, like, you can just, like, I'm worried I'm gonna, like, I need to take a shower after I watch him. He is so sleazy on screen. Like, the dirt just comes really off of the dude. And the way he even says, like, oh, like, everybody needs heroes like Sam and Kate, like implying the other group was, not the best for reasons that are mostly obvious and visual, and also relate to the very famous Family Guy meme. It's just dirty all around. But I mean, again, he seems like that's Homelander's guy, right? Like, he's the mouthpiece of Homelander, I'm assuming at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, he really wasn't.
Yes.
Season 3. I'm just saying, back then it was probably not even official. Now it seems like it's probably official. And we're not really going to go into predictions here too much, but just any thoughts on, the final bit where they are stuck in the, that hospital-ish room, basically. There are no doors, but it does look like there is like a hatch in the ceiling, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they did all that to uncover. I just like the irony of it. I like that they did spend a whole season uncovering the woods, wanting to do the right thing. All those people end up getting freed, and then those 4 end up back in the woods, this version of the woods, whatever it is. So, look, I think it was a great cliffhanger to kind of let us, demand and want and get excited about season 2. And they can go a bunch of different places with it. So I'm okay with it. I mean, I know it's, we saw it all season with the woods. So you kind of wanted something different, but I think it makes sense.
Who knows? It still could be something different. So we will maybe save that for the wrap up.
You mentioned we're going to do a wrap up episode here, so don't go too crazy. But anything else from the finale you'd like to discuss? I'd like to just say one thing. We did get, classic their usage of Rufus again, where he's trying to do some video that's absolutely atrocious. When the soup, it's basically just the soup coming out for you to realize, okay, they're not killing soups, they're only killing humans. But it's like, okay, if we need somebody to do an odd job here, it's Rufus, and we got that again. So way to
he's
be
the glue guy. He comes off the bench and does the dirty work. He's always there when you need a familiar face, and just not necessarily Ghostbusters reference, but definitely Ghostbusters reference. Jamie G, if anybody ever asks you if you're a soup, you say yes. Just say yes, because that poor lady, when dude just started burning her face, that was pretty brutal. I never would have thought Rihanna's Desperado would have worked there, but it actually probably did for the most part. So I don't really have any complaints. And then just shout out Justine. Not my favorite character, was definitely a capital B to the ICH. But that bit with her and her roommate where they lose the Wi-Fi is just the best.
It's so funny and just...
I just lost Wi-Fi.
There's no signal.
LTE?
No, nothing.
Harper! Who's gonna know if we die? What the fuck?
So funny and such an accurate description of the youths, right? I mean, it was just that was a really good scene there. I mean, it wasn't technically the opposite, but I mean, how happy were you to see Billy Butcher, man, mid credits there?
Happy, but at that point, it was basically extraneous. It's like, okay, so Butcher's onto the woods. That sets up. We're already pretty sure that the virus was going to be a thing in season 4 of The Boys. That really just confirms that. I mean, cool. And again, from reading some showrunner interviews, they were kind of trying to figure out how to basically have a scene similar to that in season 4 of The Boys, where to put it. And so they were like, all right, screw it. Why don't we just stick it at the end of Gen V? And that's more or less what happened. So it works, but it is, an add-on. It doesn't really change anything about the season finale of Gen V. It just gets you excited for season 4 of The Boys.
We always enjoy coming up with alternative episode titles when we talk about TV shows. Initially, Guardians of Godolkin seemed fine, but it definitely works better after you see the episode. With that said, you got any good alternatives for this one?
I mean, dude, how could it not be Hot Jeff Summer? Everyone wants that Hot Jeff Summer, dude.
Hot Jeff Summer. Shout out social media. Jeff, you will be missed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of more serious ones, like Cancel Them. It's kind of interesting. It's got a little bit of a double meaning there. Find the Real You. You know, that's, again, kind of what you see going on with Marie, with Sam, with these heroes. I think those are both good. And, you know, another fun one is, of course, Get to the Chopper. You got any?
Yeah, I mean, that's Get to the Chopper was I love that. Not really. I don't think I have anything that's better than any of those. It works really good here, but I think they went in the right direction. I'll give them that.
You know, well, if you don't have any, then I'll just give you a couple, a couple more fun ones, just real quick. Blow the Whistle would work here. That's probably not bad. A little throwback there if you get the reference.
They could cute. Blow the whistle.
There you go. That was it. Push It Real Good. I mean, Kate was pushing it real good here.
She was pushing. She was pushing hard.
And then finally, why not just work him in there? Rufus's Big Break. Maybe this is the video, like he was filming it. Maybe it's going to happen for him now.
Only a guy can dream, can he? Those are good ones, Mills. Thank you for the chuckles there. We always appreciate that. And for the last time this season, it's time to give our most college moments from the episode. Mills, what part of Guardians of Godolkin, the season finale, episode 8 of season 1 Gen V, took you right back to your college years?
I mean, there's a couple here. Though it didn't actually happen in the episode, so this doesn't count. But I know somewhere on campus, there's some dude who takes crazy naps and he slept through all of this, and he's just going to wake up after and be like, hey, man, anything happened while I was asleep? And it's just going to be like a lot of stuff happened. There was always a dude in college who took naps. And occasionally you would find out that somebody you know is related to somebody like either that you know or is famous or something like Translucent. But honestly, most college moment of the whole thing is everyone freaking out the instant the internet stops working. Knocking on doors like, yo, is your internet still working? Is your internet still working? Is your internet still working? Like, it's not going to change. If the first 3 rooms on the hall don't have internet, no one does.
That is spot on. I would say the only thing outside of that I could give is just how quickly a relationship can end in college. You know, 1 minute you're like, you just meet and you're like deeply in love. And then the next minute you're just not only like breaking up, but you're saying like horrible, cruelty, terrible things to each other and just, being extra dramatic with it. So I will give it that. Just relationships in college are just hilarious like that for the most part. That's my college moment.
Very dramatic relationships in college.
Yes. This was the season finale of Gen V, but the boys will be boys. Mills, we've got a lot of options here. So give us your favorite moment from this episode that references the boys or reminds you of, the most of the hit show, The Boys.
Man, there are so many you could go with here. But you know what? I'm not going to go with the obvious one. Give me Adam Bork pounding on the door, yelling at Ashley to let him in, and then threatening to tell everybody basically what she does tell in the threat. And then Ashley just be like, fine, we're doing it. Shut your mouth. Stop talking. That whole bit, just crazy boys vibes there. So that's what I'm going with. I'll leave the obvious ones for you.
Yeah, look, the obvious ones are, Homelander showing up, right? We get a little Billy Butcher scene. All those are great, but I'm actually going to go with the gang itself. I don't know, just something about this episode with Jordan, Marie, Emma, it just kind of made me feel like they were the boys taking on the big evil empire, which is Vought, right? And the Supes themselves, because in a way they were needing to kill Supes that had gone rogue. So it just kind of brought me back into that world and made me think, man, maybe this can be the next version of The Boys when if something happens to the folks that we love so dearly over on the main show, The Boys. So that kind of brought me back a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'm pretty sure what they were going for. So sounds like mission accomplished a little bit.
Mission accomplished. That brings us to our Gen V top 3. We're each going to rank our top 3 characters after watching the season finale. Mills, you're up first here. Go ahead. Give us your top 3.
Because this is the last week and we've been doubling up too much, I say we go one by one here. I'll give my 3, you give your 3, and we'll do that for 2 and 1 as well. At 3, I'm going with Kate. I would have had her at 2, but I'm knocking her for losing an arm. And based on the way her powers appear to work, losing 50% of your ability to touch somebody, not optimal. So I have Kate at 3. Jamie G, who do you have at 3?
I'm going to put Sam at 3. He went off the charts here, kind of ended things with Emma, went his own way, went against what his subconscious was telling him to do. And he just, while he's powerful, I don't know, something about this just lost my ability to believe he's as powerful as he is. So I'm sticking him down there at 3. A little down on Sam after this one.
Fair enough. I am actually going with Sam at 2. I think he showed all he needed to show when he just punched through that dude's head like nothing. We basically seen in all of his violence either been directed against walls, if it was live action, or against puppets when he was in Little Puppet World or whatever. Yeah, I mean, he can borderline fly. He's bulletproof, apparently. That's pretty tough, man. I know we've seen some stuff here, but I still got to go with Sam. And again, now he's putting it, a position of power based on the way this ended. So, who you got it to?
He is. I'm gonna. We're kind of every other in here, but I'm putting Kate here. Kate to me emerged as a clear-cut brains behind the operation. She also showed tremendous, strength in her own way. And they really kind of went into just how powerful she can be. I understand that she's limited because she has to touch in all that, but she absolutely showed just how powerful she can be. And I think if anyone has the cunning nature and manipulative skill set to succeed in Vought, she does. So I'm putting Kate at number 2.
All right. That brings us to number 1. And even if she is, apparently locked up like Akon at the end, I am still going with Marie. She vastly expanded her powers, theoretically survived a, point blank laser blast from Homelander. That's some powerful stuff, dude. So I have to go with Marie Moreau at 1. Jamie G, are you also going with Marie, or you got to swerve for me?
I mean, could I say Homelander? I mean, obviously I could, but I'm not going to. I'm going to also go with Marie. Look, dude, she looks to be the most powerful soup outside of maybe Homelander. So, and it's only a matter of time before maybe she gets on that level. I understand she can't fly. I understand a lot of the things he can do that she can't, but dude, she has a very, very unique skill set. I like where she's at. It's just going to be managing kind of the good versus evil in her and figuring out what she has to do to play the game, so to speak. So I like Marie a lot. She's, she absolutely finishes number 1 for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when bad meets evil.
Yes.
He's evil,
it
not bad like
is.
Steve Seagal. I guess we'll see you in hell for the sequel.
I guess we will. And a season finale is basically the final exam for a TV show, I guess, right? That makes sense. So we have to give it a grade. Mills, on a scale of F- to A+, what grade are you giving to the Guardians of Godolkin, the season 1 finale of Gen V?
B+. I think that's right where I was last episode. It really feels like those two almost could have been jammed together to be a super long finale or something like that. So I think that's fair. It's not quite getting into that A territory for me, but nothing wrong with a B+. It was solid. I'm excited for what comes next, but did definitely run a little bit on the short side. Did give kind of the short end of the stick to some of our characters. Would have liked to have gotten a little bit more, so can't go all the way to the top of the scale, but I think B+ is solid. I'd be happy with a bunch of that. Not that much wrong with a bunch of 3.3s. Jamie G, season 1, episode 8. Give me a grade.
I'm going to also give it the B+. I had this thing, I went back and forth between A-, B+. I'm going to stay with B+. I thought it was really good when the highs were awesome. But some of the things I didn't like were just too big to kind of overlook, to push it into the catapult, the world of A's. I'm still waiting for them to have just a bona fide, absolute gem A+. We haven't really seen a lot of that yet. I think it's close. It's on the precipice. But for this one, I'm sticking right there with you with B+.
Yeah, you go A plus, and I'm like, ooh, Hempstead High, the Latchkey Child. Like, which A plus album are we talking about?
A plus, baby. Normally, it would be time for predictions. Unfortunately, we're out of new episodes. So for the time being, that's it. It's not all bad, though. There's more Compound B on the horizon. Ain't that right, Brother Mills?
Yes, sir. Dean Kane, sir. We'll be back next week or the week after, probably to wrap up season 1 of Gen V, kind of give our favorites, maybe tell you what we didn't like, all that good stuff. And then we'll probably give, a little bit of early season 2 predictions. And we'll talk about how we expect this to tie into season 4 of The Boys.
And we'll be here to cover season 4 of The Boys. I cannot wait for that. It sounds like that won't arrive until sometime in 2024, but whenever it is, we'll be here. Hopefully it's not during football season, but we will be here. And in the meantime, we're going to hang out. We're going to cover the first trailer when it drops, and we're going to work our way through seasons 1 and seasons 2. Maybe that'll give us some time to do that, drop those for you guys, and just be all things Boys and Gen V. Maybe we even look to do Diabolic. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we already did it. I mean, I would hope they have more, but we definitely already did Diabolical. So you can check that one out already. That was a good time. And honestly, we all like Gen V, but I cannot wait to dive back into The Boys. I am definitely going to rewatch the series before season 4 drops. So, I think it makes sense to try to go back, do some of those older episodes. I think we'd have a real good time, but, one thing at a time. Let's just focus on kind of wrapping up Gen V in the next week or two here, talk about how it ties in. That'll give us the perfect springboard to dive back into The Boys.
Sounds like a plan, my man. Thank you guys for checking out Compound B. Remember to stick around for that wrap-up episode and let us know what you thought about the finale and season 1 in general. Drop it in the comments or hit us up on our social media. Hire a Skyrider. Send a telegram. Bring a raven, whatever works for you. Just don't do a 3-eyed raven. We're not up for that level of intensity just yet. Mills, remind everyone where they can find us.
Thank you, sir. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We're on social media at Compound B Pod. Thank you for not forgetting to check us out. And do not forget the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. It's all we ask. If you had fun, give us that thumb. I'm Magnum Mills. He's Jamie G. And that was Compound B.
I guess you've stuck around long enough for me to finally tell you what the B in Compound B stands for. It stands for